I had never seen a Bollywood or Tollywood film. I had heard the stories, I had seen clips of scenes, heck, I even watched that Darkman video over fight scenes from these kinds of movies. And after all of that, I can confidently say that I was still unprepared for RRR. The absolute level of insanity this movie has to offer is probably more than most people can handle. If you're a person that prefers things to be realistic as possible, dead serious, or straightforward, then this probably isn't a movie for you. That said, I thoroughly enjoy over-the-top stuff. Whether that be comedy or action, I'm usually down for something wacky and wild, and RRR delivered in every way. As you've probably seen from the clips so far, the action in this movie is beyond hyperbolic. The laws of physics are not a factor in this movie, nor the capabilities of a normal human being. Our two main characters, Bheem and Ram, are both set up in glorious over-the-top set pieces. Firstly, we get Ram, a police officer who, upon hearing his higher authority demand the arrest and retrieval of a single man within a rioting mob, says no problem. This man straight up jumps into the crowd and just starts brawling with what looks like hundreds of guys. Now, it doesn't go perfect, sure. He gets hit over the head with a rock, he gets dogpiled on, but through sheer will he's able to break free and keep going. Eventually, he catches up to the guy, arrests him, brings him back, washes his own face, and then immediately goes back to his post like nothing happened. Immediately after, we cut to Bheem, who's just showing off how hard he's worked for his summer bod, but then he starts pouring blood all over himself. Turns out he's setting himself up to be human bait to try to capture a wolf. But halfway through, oopsie doopsie, it's not just a wolf in the area, but a tiger. He notices the tracks while running, spots it, and in the nick of time is able to dodge out of the way before the chase continues. The trap was designed to capture wolf, so it fails, nearly getting Bheem killed. He catches the rope at the last second, holding on for his life, and then with his bulging muscles attempts to hook the ropes together. But of course, the rope snaps. Bheem quickly gets some kind of sleeping potion from his buddy, hits the tiger in the face with it, then wrestles with it while it goes Betty by. All of that, back to back, was just the setup for our two main characters. That wasn't even some of the main action, that was just to show the audience that these characters exist. The main action scenes are even crazier. There's a part where Bheem unleashes a zoo's worth of ferocious animals on the enemy and then literally throws a leopard at a guy. There's a scene where Ram's legs are injured, so he rides atop Bheem while they fight their way out of a prison, while firing two rifles single-handedly and doing all kinds of acrobatics. Then the movie crescendos with a final confrontation where the two heroes take on an army load of men with nothing than a bow and arrow, a spear, and their bare hands. I mean, these guys even have combo attacks. This stuff is insanely over the top and crazy unrealistic, but it's fun as hell. The action was way beyond what I could have anticipated. What I didn't anticipate at all, however, is the fact that there is so much singing and dancing in this movie. I mean, thinking back on it, especially with how many songs there were, I believe that this movie can legitimately be categorized as a musical. I have no problems with musicals, in fact I like a few quite a bit, this just caught me off guard. We get hardcore action showing off how strong and determined our heroes are, and then they can dance too? I mean, these guys can really dance. I unironically was so impressed with how well they danced in this scene. Honestly, I can praise these actors all day. They would go from being these serious, badass, hardened heroes who are willing to suffer or do anything for their cause, and then they would just switch to these goofy, lovable characters dancing and singing. I will say that the singing, although beautiful and usually poignant, never failed to make me laugh in serious moments. Now this could just be translation, but at times the lyrics of the songs would be so straightforward that it left no room for subtext or subtlety of any kind. The best example I have for this is that there's a certain climax where one of the main conflicts kind of comes to a head. The scene is dire and our heroes are at odds with each other, completely at an impasse. Then all of a sudden the singing comes in to say, "This is an unforeseen turn of fate, which has culminated in this friendship. It's yet to be seen if this will end in bloodshed." Anytime this happened in the movie, I'd usually bust out laughing, mostly because I'd start thinking about if they did this in other movies too. Like, can you imagine the end of Endgame and then a choir just comes out of nowhere over the music singing about how Tony Stark sacrificed himself to save the world and he's now gone forever? Like I said, maybe it's a translation issue or maybe just a different style, but instead of just letting us watch what's happening, there would be a choir explaining the more in-depth emotional concepts, and it straight up just made me die every time. Despite cracking up during some of the more serious moments due to the singing, my favorite part about this movie is the way that they set up the conflict. Ram is in the police, kind of working as a super spy. His desire is to get higher up into the ranks so that he can steal guns in order to give weapons to his people so that they can fight back and revolt against the British. On the other hand, Beam has been tasked to rescue a little girl, Molly, from the main villains of the story who basically kidnapped her because they liked how well she sang. However, the bad guys are warned of Beam and basically promise a massive promotion to the one who arrests him. Rom immediately sees this as the way to achieve his goal, a goal that he's willing to do anything for. So early on, they're pitted against each other. Only problem is, Rom doesn't know anything about the person he's supposed to arrest, and through an incident of chance, they become best friends. That instance of chance, by the way, is them saving a young boy in the most absolute bonkers way ever. I absolutely loved this hidden conflict. Of course, we the audience know it's going to come to light eventually, but in their ignorance, they become like brothers. I mean, there's literally a montage of them being BFFs. Rom plays as Beam's wingman for the girl he's interested in, they climb a human tower together, and my favorite, they ride a horse and a motorcycle around the countryside. This friendship is so genuine and wholesome, which makes it even more heartbreaking when they're forced to turn on each other. Both actors do an excellent job conveying their emotions when they're shoved into this gut-wrenching situation. What's even worse is Beam doesn't know about Rom's ultimate goal, so he just thinks of all of this as betrayal. After Rom turns on Beam, he's then forced to punish him in a gruesome way with a whip that basically shreds wood. There's so much nuance here as Rom has to decide between torturing his closest friend or giving up the goal he's been pursuing for years. Real, genuine internal conflict like this makes the audience empathize with the protagonists. It makes heroes seem human and real, even if they are doing stuff like this. Underneath all of the crazy, over-the-top action and goofiness, there's a solid plot with excellent acting and emotional payoff. If you can't get past something being wacky, that's fine, I honestly get it. It definitely worked for me though. The only real criticism I have for the movie is that it's long. It runs over 3 hours, and while I feel like the pacing was fine and everything kept my interest, it still felt like there was just too much. Some things could have been trimmed down for the sake of keeping the narrative a little tighter. That said, I really enjoyed the movie overall. It was something that was totally different from what I'm used to, but that in itself was a real treat. If you enjoyed this video, consider watching my character analysis on Jack Burton and Big Trouble in Little China or any of my other movie reviews in the playlist. Have a wonderful day and peace out.